All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Ty McGrath, along with Thomas Johannes. And this is our first intro to uh, talking about sports, from a black male educated perspective. I'm going to go first, introduce myself. So, there's a little background about me. It's going to be a disclaimer. I'm originally from New York, um, Brooklyn via Rochester, New York. So, I had the whole state covered. So I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan for hockey. Yes, black man like hockey. Um, New York Yankees fan, New York Knicks fan. But my football team, professional team is the Cowboys, and there's a lot of history behind that. And also, can't help but root for the Bills as well. And then my college football team is the Canes, the U. It's been years of struggling, but it's all right. And basketball is Syracuse basketball.
All right. Well, thanks, Ty. So again, as Ty said, my name is Thomas Giannis. Give you a little background. I'm actually an immigrant. Came from East Africa, small country called Eritrea that's above Ethiopia. Immigrated to Rochester, New York. That's where we Ty met. Again, I don't know why my parents picked the coldest place, but they decided to pick it. So as Ty alluded to, really the passion is of having this is because we talk about sports all the time and go on TV, and I'm not gonna call anybody out on this later on, but feel like a lot of times, we would say we could have said that or even did a better job of it. So we wanted to put it out there. Professional teams, I'm a Bills fan. There's a lot of history behind that. We could talk later on. Sabres fan, as black people do like hockey. Yankees, even though they aggravate me. And then I went to Ithaca College, so I never went to Major D1, but felt like I always went to Syracuse because I used to go to all of the games. So Syracuse basketball fan, and Ty and I both are U fans. Hate to admit it, but we're like the U. So that's our team. And we also are big soccer fans too. The World Cup come up, so I'm a Chelsea fan. They're looking all right, but they usually have a lot of African players, so that's why I'm a fan of them.
Man, you if I have to do the premiere,
Yeah,
but I'm a Barca guy. Uh, I'm La Liga,
yeah,
very underrated, very underrated. But
yes,
yeah, so yeah, I think Thomas, basically hit the head on it. So basically, I'm sick of listening to these people I watch sports all day, every day, and I'm really sick of people giving I feel like media topics on this stuff. Like it's always biased. There's always some kind of slant, and I feel like they miss a lot of the facts. So, we're gonna go in, we're gonna give opinions, but we're gonna give opinions from our point of view, which is very informed and very educated and not biased from, the media. It's really what we see, and we're pretty both, statistical and number people, so we do have numbers usually that go back up what we got to say. All right. So first topic for the day is so you guys know this is January 19th. So this is divisional playoff round. And so what we want to talk about is um the playoff matchups. So we got right now this week, there's four games. There's the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's the Bills and the Bengals. And then there's the Eagles, Giants, and then the Cowboys versus the 49ers. And so, Thomas, I wanted to, start off by talking to you about nobody cares about the Jaguars. Let's just be real, okay? I mean,
yeah,
we're not the media, so we're not going to talk about sunshine. All right.
right, right, right,
We ain't
right,
talking about the Jaguars. So let's just
right.
go into the game, right? Which is the Bills and Bengals. Um, I I just want to flat out to start out by saying this, T. I understand why people are all up on the Bengals hype train because, Joe Burrow won a national championship in college, and he was so awesome last year that he scored a whopping 19 points at
Right.
Tennessee. So he's lights out. And yes, he did beat the Chiefs, and that was a very
The
nice win.
defense beat the
And the
Chiefs.
defense did, right? They're the ones that held them.
Right.
Um, but I personally believe that the Bengals are overrated. And we can go off of, history, but I also like to go off who you play. And the
Right.
Bengals did a lot of beating crappy teams during this run.
Yeah.
And so before you give them all credit, and they're a good team. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but all the love that they're getting and the hate that the Bills getting, like the Bills are not on an 8-game winning streak, is just shocking to me. Like,
Right.
it don't make no sense. I really can't explain it.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. So I add some points. So no, take it. I'm a Bills fan, so I'm objective, right? I'm an objective fan.
mhm,
I'm not a homer. The Bengals are a good team. I
mhm,
agree with you. The Bengals are a good team. But what I find interesting, and overrated, maybe a hype, is that two things with the NFL. I feel the media does. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes have been basically the media darlings for the last 2 years. Right? They had the
mhm,
greatest NFL game ever last year, year
right.
before that, and all that stuff. So they always want a new shiny toy. This year, for me, it was Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert showed last week. I don't even want to hear anybody talking about anything about him. I don't want to hear about. I don't want to hear about Brandon Staley. I don't even want to hear anything. He had a
Right.
chance. He missed getting Allen in a wide open touchdown. I want to divulge in that game, but there it is. And now it's Joe Burrow. But I look at it like this, right? So why does Joe Burrow always get excuses? John, he's like, oh, Jamar Chase wasn't there, so that's when they ran into that, right? Okay. Micah Hyde was hurt. We saw that. Von Miller. Oh, his O line wasn't hurt. He's cool as a cucumber. His O line was hurt. But if you actually watched the game last week, let me give break down the game last week. Last week, the Bengals weren't going to score in that second half. It
Mhm,
just wasn't going to happen.
right.
It wasn't happening. You could talk about the O line, everything, but if you're supposed to be this great guy, by the way, Josh Allen's line is ranked 27th on PFF,
Mhm,
but that's besides the point.
mhm,
Spencer Brown is ranked 70. He's ranked 78th out of 82 tackles in the NFL. But no, and he's a starting one. I get they're going to say the Bengals line, but we're talking about starting people, not the backups
mhm.
rating, right? So you look at that, and that happens, right? So last week, the Ravens lost the game, right?
Yeah.
So the Ravens lost the game. Now everyone's like, "Oh, Josh Allen had a bad game." Nick Wright, I heard Nick Wright say that. I hate to call him out, but he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Josh Allen had one of his worst game playoff." Really? 350 yards, three touchdowns,
Yeah.
two interceptions. I get it. The fumbles. That's a bad. I'll take that. And go let that
How many points did they score? I forgot. Did they how many points?
34.
Oh, okay, okay. Just want to
Yeah.
make sure. Okay,
30,
go ahead.
34. And again, I know that's what happens with the Bills. By accident, they score over 30 points, even when they're terrible. Right. So now the one thing the one thing I understand about the game, because to me, this game is going to be a toss up. I would feel better if the Bills last week closed out, but one of the things that it's not really Josh Allen, it's more of the coaching. They
Mm.
stopped running the ball. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, you have 17-0, and all of a sudden, we don't see a running back. You're throwing it deep to John Brown, who caught 3 balls all in 2 years. But hey, why not throw the ball to him, right? Start running the ball, right?
Right.
And so, what the Bengals are going to do, they want to run best run defense with Reader. They're going to
Mhm.
try to stop the run, and it's going to be Josh Allen. But this is what I tell the Bills: unplug him and let him be Josh Allen, right?
Mm.
Don't hold him back and go. And then the Bills on the end to win because Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase will do well because Bills defense is kind of, I'm a Bills fan. I watch a lot of their games, got the stats. They're a bend or don't break, right? If you look at their stats are kind of skewed a little bit. Their run defense is good. Their pass defense ranked in the middle of the NFL, 16th, I think,
Mm.
in a year. But they do very good in the red zone. So you'll
Yeah.
get a lot of yards, but then once you get in that red zone area, they kick a lot of field goals. So I see that happening. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think those are pretty sound. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you could go into about like numbers and all that stuff, but last time I checked, it's about the final score and how many points you score.
Sure.
And I think if I look it up, I believe the Bills scored at least 50 plus points more than the Bengals did this season.
Yeah. Yes, they
And
did.
they gave up, I don't know, like 75 less points or something. So I'm confused again why, I heard people saying, I don't understand why the Bills are favored. I'm like, well, they're at home
Hmm.
and they're actually a better team. Like,
Right.
don't get the winning streak stuff fool you, okay?
Right.
I think didn't the Dolphins go on a nice winning streak? How'd that work out for them? Okay, when you start
Oh
to
yeah,
play real
definitely.
teams.
Well,
So
he mean they played against 500, but below
yeah,
500 teams.
right.
But
So yeah, you beat so the Bengals, you beat the Falcons. Great. You beat, I'm glad you were able to beat the Falcons. And I was glad you were able to beat, Pittsburgh before, they got their stuff together. Like these aren't really, what are we talking about? So
yeah,
so I think, with the stats, I really think it's points. So I would like to see if the Bengals this week, this is going to tell me a lot. If the Bengals are who we think they need to score at least 30 points because I know who's going to score 30 points. That's going to be the
yeah,
Buffalo Bills.
yeah.
Right? So you better be putting up your 30 something points with all those weapons. No excuse. You got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the best 1-2 combo in the league at wide
And
receiver,
Tyler Boyd
and
might be
Tyler
there.
Boyd, best slot. I mean, and then you got Joe Mixon, who's top 10 backs in the league. So I don't want to hear any excuses. Go out there, light it up. Should be Joe Cool, but don't be
Mhm.
Joe. Don't say he's Joe Cool. He scores 20 points. That's all I'm saying. If he scores 20 points, I don't want to hear anything about Joe Cool no more.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
Skylar Thompson scored 30 some points last week.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, and I would look at a comment. People are like, well, you can't compare it. People still talk about the game, which I think is funny. But I tell you, they're talking about, oh, they're up 7-3, right, and they're driving. The game was 6 minutes into the first quarter. Oh,
Right.
what are we talking about? But the way I look at comment components, right? So and I get they play the Steelers. Steelers put 30 points on them in the last game. The Patriots, which the Bills
Yep.
dominated the first game, they almost won. If it wasn't for Adam Stevenson fumbling the ball, who knows
Yep.
what happened.
Yep.
And a game that so many people forget to talk about, I think it's hilarious to me. So a lot of the people, oh, the Bills lost 3 games in a total of 8 points. So here's a stat. Okay.
Hmm.
3 Minnesota, 2 Miami, and 3 against the Jets.
Yep.
Guess who the Bengals lost to? And in our revival, the Cleveland Browns, 32-13. I mean, that's just I get it. Jamar Chase. I get so confused, but people forget the media never talks about that game. I mean, they skipped that game. Joe Burrow had T. Higgins. I'll take T. Higgins and Boyd compared to Diggs, Gabe Davis, and then at the time Isaac. I can't catch a Cole McHenzie, right? Like so. I like
Right.
Isaac. No, this them, but just sometimes you can't catch anything. And yeah, Joe Mixon. And at times their offensive line, another stat people forget, after week 2, their offensive line was the only offensive line in NFL that until Collins got hurt, was the only offensive line that played all their starters without an injury, which people don't talk about at all.
Right.
So go look more. So I look at it that way, right? Now the game's gonna be interesting because let's talk about the Bills. I'm gonna be a Bills fan. Are we gonna get sugar high Josh as Kyle calls him, or are we gonna get the Josh Allen we know? I
Mhm.
feel, and I put my money where the mouth is. I'm in a Survivor League for fantasy. I got Josh Allen. I had a choice between Patrick Mahomes, who's rated #1 quarterback, Joe Burrow, pick Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to have a good game. I
Mhm.
think. Now, the other key to me is on the other side, you're like, okay, as Bills, and I'm going to tell you how the Bengals beat the Bills. On our
Mhm.
side, how do you beat the Bengals? You
Mhm.
you got to let Trey one-on-one Jamar and everybody cover everybody else. And obviously you got to get pressure with the front four, right? That's
Yeah.
the thing. But if the Bills can get Trey White, he played very good against Tyreek Hill. And by the way,
Mhm.
a lot of times I get confused about Skylar Thompson. He threw some good balls
Yeah,
out.
he did. He
Right? I
did.
mean, they're talking to him like he was playing, like
No,
he was
he played a
Nate
really good
Peterson
game.
like he's Nate Peterson. He threw that one pass to Hill. I mean, he got knocked out and
Yeah.
then waddle. So if they can do that, they can. On the other side of the Bengals,
Mm.
run the ball. You're gonna have to run because you can't just drop back the whole time. I mean, you just can't.
Right.
And I like him as a good story, but Dean Marlowe, I mean, he even said on the play, he got lost in the coverage, got the interception. First
Yeah.
time I heard a person say that he actually made an interception by accident, right? So Dean Marlowe, if you actually watched the game last week, the reason why Jalen Waddle dropped that ball and Jalen Waddle had a third and 30, the third and 18 that he caught was Dean
Mhm.
Marlowe's side because Jordan Poyer is trying to play the cover 3 and trying to play. He's not fast enough to be I
To
saved you
play
the
the
wrong
whole
line.
field. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's gonna
yeah, yeah,
play and then
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So if they actually watch the tape and watch the game, I think they're going to attack that a little bit. So
Hmm.
Buffalo is going to, and then they better start Kylie Aram. I mean, Elam. When
Yeah.
Dane Jackson got hurt, I mean, no, I love Dane, great story, but you just got to play the more physical because Dame. You saw what
Yeah.
T Higgins did to who was that cornerback? I think it was against wasn't it the Jets? He played who went against
Oh yeah, not Sauce, the
DJ
other
Reader,
guy. Yeah, Reader, I
Reed
think.
or DJ Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he 5'9" do it against 6'5". So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how the game's gonna be.
Yeah, so I'm really, really interested in that game. Of course, as you can tell, we have a little bit of passion about that one.
So
Um, so the next game is the matchup we talk about, and is the Eagles and the Giants. So as a NFC East person, I mean, I'll make a disclaimer also. My family, my in-laws are all from Philly, so I got to hear about them all the time. And I've been saying this all year, but you guys, because this is the first show, you're going to be first time you hearing me say it. Another overhyped team is Philadelphia. And the reason why I say it, I'm not saying they're not a good team. Good team. I mean, they have a good defense, they have a good offense, and that's why they beat most of these mediocre teams. And because the NFC East, while it is nice that yes, three of them are in and so it does show that we weren't terrible, we had an easy schedule. Okay.
oh yeah,
And so I know as a Dallas Cowboys fan, our schedule was easy, and the Eagles was even easier because at least we had to play the Bengals and beat them. They had to play the Steelers without TJ Watt, and I think Trubisky was quarterback at that time.
yeah.
So they spanked them, of course. At least we had to play somebody that could play football. Um,
And
and so
then Jags were
all,
terrible too. There when they played
yeah, the
them.
Jags, right? And actually the Jags played them close. They had 5 turnovers, and they
Yeah,
still had a
almost like
chance.
four fumbles that
Yeah,
game.
4 fumbles.
Yeah,
So I was watching all year and I'll give them credit. They beat us with our backup quarterback. Nobody talks about that. They're like, oh, they're so great. Look at it, my brother beat the Cowboys. I'm like, well, because our quarterback threw two terrible picks and it was
mm-hmm.
ugly. But then after that, all of a sudden, it was 20-17 in the fourth quarter with our backup in. So then the game, I actually attended this game with my mom in Dallas. We beat them with their backup. Oh, but all of a sudden, Philly gets an excuse. Oh, when Jalen Hurts gets there, it's going to be better. No, I think, when I look at a complete team, and this is going to be not the media, and I'm giving him credit, he had a good season with all that talent. Jalen Hurts is the person that I would be targeting if I was the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles run the ball on you, you're done. You have no chance because now you got to put everybody in the pocket, and then Jalen Hurts is basically playing 7-on-7. It's just it's just catch 1-on-1 with, AJ Brown and the Slim Reaper out there, Devontae Smith. You're gonna get killed. But you
Mm-hmm.
know what? The Giants know this.
Right.
They played them twice, and I know that, people have been hard on Daniel Jones. Now all of a sudden he's getting love, which again, you guys didn't know this before. I think there's a certain two people in here that had given him credit. I said, look, he's playing with me and I'm 40 some years old out there wide receiver
Oh,
and actually doing all right. So I'm like, you give him a coach, you give him a line because he was getting killed. All of a sudden now the guy, because he's so mobile,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, he can make plays for you.
Right.
So I think that this is a very intriguing game.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Giants have a very good chance of winning. I don't think they will win because I think the Giants are. I don't trust them enough. Just put it that way. And it's not Daniel Jones or anyone. I just don't trust them enough. But it's going to be down to the wire. I think it's going to be a knockout NFC East drag out game, 24-21, 24-23. It's going to be one of those kind of games where everybody's going to look bad and somebody, the Eagles are probably going to pull out just because they're home.
Right.
Um, Even though, just by the way, I do think that the Giant, just so you people that don't know, the Giants play better in Philly for some reason than they do in New York against Philly. I never understand it,
Right.
but they do. So it's
Especially
going to be interesting.
Odell.
Yes, right, Odell. So I mean, that's my take on the game. But what's your take on that
Yeah,
one.
so I'll keep it short and simple. I know you're the
Hmm.
NFC guy. So Eagles, my dad's a big Eagles fan, so we talk about it. But just to go off of scheduling, right? Now
Hmm.
the schedule is what the schedule, right? You're gonna
Hmm.
beat the team you beat. They beat the Lions by 3. They
Yep.
beat Arizona by 3.
Yep. But they should have
That-
lost that game because the Arizona kicker missed a kick, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, Arizona missed the kick. You're right. The Bears gave him a game. So a Bear, and that's with Jalen Hurts. By the way, Jalen Hurts had 300 yards. He had his best passing game. And so they beat people. They beat Minnesota early, Jacksonville. We can go down the list of that. So I'll give them credit when they dominated, right?
Hmm.
So I'll go the I'm going to go to the way I look at it. So is Jalen Hurts healthy? Number one. The Giants give up the most yards per carry to quarterback in NFL. Second most yard to quarterback in NFL at 5.6%, 5.6, right? I know we got some time, 8 minutes, but
Yeah.
5.6, right?
Hmm.
So to me, it's either you and then they got to stop the run. Saquon Barkley, because the game didn't count the last game. The game before they had 28 yards. The key to me is who runs the ball better. That's
Right.
going to be. And if I was in Vegas, I used to live there. I'm taking the Giants at 8.5 point spread. I mean, that's just me. So
Yeah. No,
make it short and simple for me is
yeah.
whoever runs the ball better. That's going to be the game.
Yep. And then last but not least, again, because we skipped the Kansas City game, which it's got a little intrigue to it, but I don't see the
Yeah.
Chiefs losing. Is this Dallas Cowboys 49ers game? So I'm gonna let you go first, actually, and give
Yeah.
your point because of course I feel a certain way, but I can be objective. So go ahead.
Yeah, I actually did some like research on this, going back and forth, torn. My thing is, everyone. I feel that the fairy dust for Brock Purdy will be soon, but the problem is that no, I think he's good story, great.
Mm,
I watch him. He last week impressed me. Other than that, like he's just a good quarterback. He's making plays, right? But again, you know how the NFL is when they put more tape on you. Next year, you're the same person.
yeah.
He's more athletic and all that. Kyle Shanahan does a great job. It's going to be a very interesting game because I don't want to even. I know they played earlier, but take that game away. It's two different teams. Jimmy G was there. It's a different team, different style.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey's there now. So my take is Dallas just got to stop the. It's going to be the run again.
Yeah.
Shanahan is not going to put the ball in Brock Purdy's hand. He's gonna run the ball, do jet sweeps, bubble screen with Debo, give it to give it to the running backs, Christian McCaffrey. That's all it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
So on their offense, I think they're going to keep it very not vanilla, but they're going to keep it simple, get it out of hand, everything's like that. So Dallas defense has to be ready for that. I
Yeah.
think the key to me the game, what I'm watching is Dallas offense versus their defense. That's the game, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier, but if there's one weakness that San Fran has, it's the deep ball, right?
Yeah.
So I know you're going to talk about it more with that, but as a Dallas fan, if I was there, I don't want to see Ezekiel Elliott in the game unless it's short yardage. That's just as a Dallas fan because
Yeah.
you got to spread because then you box it in. Ezekiel is not a sweep guy. He's not a toss crack guy. You're going to put it in, and that's where that's their moneymaker. It's in the middle.
Hmm.
You got to spread it up, make Fred Warner go to the side, make Greenland go over. You got to go
Hmm.
all those guys, and that's how you got to play it. And you get sweeps and different things like that. So I
Yeah.
really feel that if Dallas their offense can, I mean, they're not going. Dak is not going to play like last week. If he does,
No,
I don't want to hear the hate on Dak because
that's true.
that's wow. But if he could play at least 60% of what we did last week with no turnovers,
Hmm.
they got a shot. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. So before the playoffs started, I was like, all right, I think Dallas could beat anybody besides San Francisco. Like literally, I mean, in the NFC, just by matchup perspective. I mean, if both teams play their best game, I think the 49ers are better.
Yeah.
But that was before I watched last week, and I'm not even saying the Dallas game, more actually the San Francisco game and the 2 weeks before. So I watched I watched the Raiders game, I watched that Cardinals game, even though they ended up blowing them out, but it really was not like that. And then this Seattle game. And I'm seeing some holes in San Francisco. Um, I think, of course, their pass rush and their front four is just lethal. I mean, and they live off that. But if you can protect, Jarrett Stidham was out there looking like he was Tom Brady. He threw
Right,
for
right.
365 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Devontae Adams looked like
Devontae Adams had 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like they were killing those corners. And same with DK Metcalf. He was out there destroying them. And that's because you have to be able to pass protect, right? Which I will say that having Tyron Smith back is a huge addition for Dallas. Like, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. And so you can't underestimate how big that is. Our line was playing well without him, but having him in there is just another level. So I do think from an offensive perspective, we can protect the ball. We do have enough weapons to hurt them on the outside. But the issue that I have is Dallas struggles to stop the run. They
right.
can do it in small spurts, but I have not seen them do that for a long period of time. And like you said, if I'm Kyle Shanahan is a smart guy. He's not going to have Brock Purdy drop back and throw 40 passes unless we're winning, up to a lead at the beginning. And if he does that, Dallas is going to win because our
Right.
front four is going to get back there. Our guys will get pressure. But I think they're going to run the ball, and unless Dallas somehow this in these 4 days or 5 days, this is a short week, which is also some BS, by the way.
5 days or
Um,
7. Yeah.
yeah, which is ridiculous. If they somehow figure out a way to stop the run that they have not really done all year, then they're going to win. But I don't know. I think they have a chance, but I don't necessarily see how that's going to happen. So anyway,
Interesting.
huh?
Yeah, 'cause Giants and Dallas had to stop the run.
Yeah,
That's the game.
that is it. They're playing the two best running teams in their conference. Yeah,
Yeah.
is those two teams. Dallas is close third. I mean, we run the ball well, but those two teams do it better. So yeah, so we'll be intriguing to see next week. Who ends up coming out of that. And hey, we could have been completely off in the Jacksonville, Kansas City game. That would be awesome for
I'll
everybody.
give you a stat. Well, I'll end it.
Yes.
27-3, Andy Reid on a bye,
Yeah.
6-1 in the playoffs. I mean, that's so.
Yeah.
Statistically, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
Yeah. Jags got a gift. The Chargers were charging last
right,
last week. They were charging.
right.
And the last thing, we have a couple more minutes that we're gonna have a quick discussion. We could have a little bit more on it. Was This is MVP for the NFL.
Yep.
So, you know, I'll let you go first on your opinion on who the MVP is. There's a bunch. You got Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, you got, Jalen Hurts, Burrow, you know, um,
Yeah.
all these guys have been. So who do you think you would you give it to?
It's Mahomes and everybody else. That's just that. I
Hmm.
mean, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, another. I'm not a big stat. Like I think quarterback stats is one of the most overrated things because
Hmm.
whether are you playing in a dome, like Jared Goff, we don't have to talk about him, but like the guy that had one of his best years, he plays in a dome 10 games a year.
Right.
Right. So we can talk about the weather and different things like that, but. Patrick Mahomes, right, her rebuild year. He's just that person. I would say second is Josh Allen because just he has less talent, right? I get the turnovers and everything, but
Mm.
I always tell people LeBron had a turnover problem because he had the ball all the time in his hand. Right? So,
Right.
so, so if you're the man, you're the leading rusher on the team. You got to pass the ball. You make
Right.
mistakes. You got to make chances, right? He's not Alex Smith out there.
He's out there kicking extra points,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. Dark horse for me would have been Tyreek Hill, but that's
Yes.
Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson. I know they don't get it, but they're dark horses because they made if quarterbacks are game managers efficient. So, but
Yeah.
it's Mahomes and everybody else. That's me. So,
Yeah, and I know people, want to, and I agree with you 100%. We do disagree a lot of times, but this one we agree on.
right, right.
Um, the one that people throw out there a lot is Jalen Hurts. Uh, the
Right.
best passing game that the Eagles had this year?
The
It
Bears, right?
wasn't, yeah, it wasn't Jalen Hurts actually.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, you're right.
It was actually
Pardon me.
Mr. Minshew, okay, with the beard. That's not a coincidence either, okay? And I'm not saying passing is the only thing because you're running whatever you're supposed to. But that team is loaded, okay? And they might have lost the two games because one, I thought it was matchup based. I think Dallas is pretty good. But I also think they're winning. He's doing his job, but
Right,
that team is built. They don't give up points. You're not
right, right, right,
you can't score on them that much. So that means you don't have to score. They beat the Indianapolis Colts 17-16. The
right, right,
Colts, okay, the Surrey Colts. It
right,
wasn't a great effort by Hurts. He drove him down to salvage the game that he was terrible the entire game. So
mhm,
it's that defense. They win games for them. So I'm not knocking them. And people say, well, you can't control it. I'm like, well, you know what? You're right, but that's actually a factor because Mahomes is out there playing with anybody. So
right,
Jalen Hurts, sorry, you had a great year. You're at least third in my eyes. That's the best that you're gonna do if I was voting.
right.
So, anyways, I think looks like our recording is about to end, but thanks, Thomas, for